politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Yeah. You know what that means when the monkeys play and sing Mary, Mary. It's time for Mary Matalin, Republican political consultant, former campaign director for President George H.W. Bush, former assistant to President George W. Bush.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, on and on and on and on. How many presidents can I name? What?
Monkey Mary. Are you just trying to, is another way of calling me old, I think.
Oh, stop it. You know, when I was a kid, let me tell you, I was a member of the Monkees fan club, and I remember what they sent me in the mail. They sent me an 8x10 glossy of the Monkees in color, although it was pinkish in its hue, and a monkey mobile, like a what do you call, Hot Wheels car of the monkey mobile, and a certificate, and I had every single Monkees album.
And you're bragging about this? Do you think you're going to have any listeners after this? I am introducing my children to the Ginger Baker and the Cream and Traffic, and I make them play The Who, and those were musicians.
Oh, look, I loved all those aforementioned, but you know, when I was a little kid watching the Monkees every week, I was addicted to the Monkees. And you can't find this show too many places now, which is probably a good thing for me. Anyway, enough about the Monkees. Let's switch our attention to important issues, Mary, and I want your input on what's going on down at the border. And you know, if someone of your stature who does what you do and has done what you've done, to have the President of the United States say, no, I'm not going to the border, that's even one thing. But on the same day, to then have a photo op, when he says I don't want a photo op, to then have a photo op with the governor of Colorado shooting pool and drinking beer. How does that happen?
I think about this a lot because as you said, I've known and have worked with and around and for, been blessed to do so, many politicians, and they have a soul. You have to know how to look for it, but they have a different kind of soul. I keep looking for this man's soul, and I can't find it. When he came down here after the BP crisis, after running on Katrina, right? The BP crisis was a real crisis for the whole state, and it had economic consequences for the whole country. He wouldn't come down here, and it took my husband going on TV to scream about it and calling it a lot of backdoor stuff of Democrats saying you got to get down there, got to get down there. And then he did a perfunctory beach photo op. I mean, there's no empathy. There's no understanding. It's just everything's a celebration of him or some self-consciousness raising of him. It's just like all of his laughing and beering around and talking about Austin. I don't understand it. And for the politicians or pundits who are saying this is Obama's Katrina, let me tell you something about his soul. To this day, George W. Bush and Laura Bush are still very, although quietly, very, very involved in the recovery of New Orleans and surrounding areas. This man cares about nothing, and this is so immoral. I can't even think about it because I think of my own kids. It's immoral in its substance. It offers nothing but perverse incentives like legal aid for these illegals or humanitarian aid. It does nothing about border security. It is, you know, when Rick Perry, whom I adore, is either incompetent or doesn't understand, I think he understands, and he wants chaos. He wants chaos at the borders, and I cannot. It's hard for us to analyze why a president would initiate and sanction and incentivize such chaos. That's exactly what it is and what he's seeking to do. And the question that we ask ourselves why is one that we've never had to ask about a president. And that's all I know what to say about it.
Yeah, no. And now, of course, the law that was signed into law by George Bush, I believe, back in 2008, which was had great intent, and that was to prevent child trafficking, is now being cited as the reason you can't send these kids back, and that begs two questions. One, well, then change the law immediately. Well, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi both said that isn't going to happen. They don't want to change the law. But if they don't want to, and the president did, which we know he doesn't, he could just do what he's been doing right along. He brags about a pen. He brags about doing around Congress. He could just say, we won't enforce that law anymore, which he's done on welfare reform, which he's done on immigration, which he's done on the Affordable Care Act. But that's not going to happen either, is it?
No, he is selective use of his pen and his phone. And what do you think is going to happen to these kids? Do you really think they're going to be reunited with families, or do you think they're going to be sold into sex trafficking, or they're going to be used for mule drugging or drug mules? This is, again, who's going to take care of these kids? Who's going to place them? How does this happen that there's 22 times more influx of children? You know how it's happened. You've discussed how it's happened. It is beyond immoral, and this is the party that always does everything for the children. It's all about the children. I cannot think of a worse crisis for any children anywhere in the world, including our own, when these unvaccinated and sick children make their way across the country. It's a humanitarian threat to us.
Yeah.
To us, it's a health threat to us.
Yeah, I mean, we don't let kids in school unless they keep up their vaccination records, and now we're letting kids in. We don't have any health records on them. We don't know what they might have or might not have. It's horrific on so many levels. So let's move on if we can. What do you think of the GOP convention? I know Cleveland's looking for LeBron to come back, but they got the GOP convention 2 years from now. What do you think about that as a choice?
Well, you and I think would agree that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is one badass place. I love it. I think Ohio's a good place to do it, and I've been involved in lots of conventions, and I live in a convention city now, so I know what it takes to put one on, and I know everybody on that committee and the site selection committee, and I know how they made their decision, so I think it's a very sound one. Of course, I would always be an advocate for all conventions to come to New Orleans.
Well, yes, I understand that, and it's very interesting.
Nothing like a drive-through daiquiris places all over the city to encourage a fun time for any kind of event.
Let me ask you one more, Mary, and that is Lois Lerner. The revelations now that she was very concerned about an office communications server, that's what it was called, OCS, within the IRS, and she reached out to a fellow employee and wanted to know if emails are automatically saved on that server, and should they be concerned, because she's worried that Congress might be able to look at the conversations they're having. And when she was told, act as if they are automatically saved, her quote was, upon being warned about that, she said, perfect. So she was looking for a warning, looking to get tipped off, looking for information. She got it. She said, perfect. I mean, how much worse could this look for Lois Lerner?
Lois Lerner is just a pawn. You think she's doing this without at least implicit direction? The level of corruption here far transcends Lois Lerner. It is corrupt at the highest levels, and that doesn't mean that the president has to issue an order. He's corrupt by not prosecuting this particular case, not being outraged over it, but creating an environment where people wanted employees of his, government employees whom we're supposed to trust, would be so frivolously corrupt. It's bigger than Lois Lerner is what I'm saying. We're focused on a person when it's really a systemic corruption, and it's why people have given up on the government. They're totally given up any trust or potential of trust for the government at the federal level, which gets us back to the answer is to rebuild your families, rebuild your communities, rebuild your cities, do what you can at home.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And You know, we always love talking to Mary and appreciate your time. Say hello to your husband, who you alluded to, of course, James Carville, for those who live in a cave somewhere and don't know.
He looks like he lives in a cave, doesn't he?
That's not why I said that. And we look forward to talking to you next time. Appreciate it, Mary.
Bye, Stevie Wonder.
Bye, Mary. All right, there you go, Mary Matalin.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Mary Matalin, ladies and gentlemen. She's worked for, you heard about the woman who lived in a shoe, had so many kids she didn't know what to do. Well, she's worked for so many presidents and vice presidents, I can't name them all. That's not a great analogy, but it'll work because I said it will work. Okay, folks, when we come back, Give Me 5, and I believe on this Give Me 5, we are going to talk about the president speaking after he met with Governor Perry yesterday, claiming he doesn't want a photo op, claiming he doesn't need to go to the border, given the whole rigmarole that we've heard. So you'll hear it all right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Only, and I say only because I mean only, right here on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.